Hello. Today I want to expand a bit more on the reasons why I'm looking into Nazi Germany in a bit more detail and which open question I still have about this topic. Um, Most of the reasons are personal based, but there are also a few points which touch on kind of the wider community of fellow humans. Um, because there are certain political agendas pushed on this topic, and I think only with a wider knowledge about the topic, a discussion can be progressed, or people which are kind of on the one-way track maybe can be helped to understand the wider complexity of this topic. Okay, so as I mentioned before, in the 90s, when I was a young adult, I was mainly drawn into this topic by the militarism, by the Second World War topic, and in about 2005, 2006, I think it was the last time when I looked into it, read a book, or you know, listened to things in more detail or in some detail about it, because back then everything I was doing was mainly military based and very little economic or policy based. Um, the next point is similar to the last point I'm going to mention with the open question. I think everybody who looks into the topic has to deal somehow with the shock that you experience learning what happened and how people conducted themselves, the immense loss of life, property, culture, and values which exist nowadays to a certain extent again, existed back then, the trust between humans. So I think, or I guess, talking about it and kind of showing an open side that the shock or the psychological stress which comes from this, um, I think it's important to somehow to deal with this, or at least to bring it to the open. Um, I'm quite aware of my ignorance on this topic, mainly because I was looking only into militaristic aspects previously. So me now going through other aspects than this of Nazi Germany kind of should or is widening my understanding, and also nowadays kind of looking into trending political topics on Twitter, YouTube, or any other platform. The the words which were formed back then, Nazi, nationalistic, fascistic, and all those things are, I think, nowadays kind of used much devalued, and actually knowing what what those terms actually meant 80 or 90, 80 years ago, um, at least puts it for me into a better perspective, and should make me use those words very careful. And if somebody uses those words, maybe I have a chance to speak about certain aspects of the past than now. Of course, humans are limited in in use of vocabulary or in kind of communicating meaning and kind of reuse of old terms and kind of using quick shortcuts in communication by labeling somebody a Nazi or labeling something as a Holocaust makes it for some people easy to communicate or to provoke, but it's good if those things are understood better, or at least from my side, for which where I know where there's certain ignorance is present. Um, Also, one theory I have is that the end of the Second World War marks a distinct change in human history, which is basically the enabling of complete destruction. I think, or at least in my sphere, with people I'm talking to, most people don't think about this, that nowadays we are really at the point of complete kind of destruction, annihilation of civilization, which was present back then, but it was only spatial limited. But at least nowadays with hydrogen and atomic bombs, it's global. It's not, it's not just yeah, a small localized issue like when the Germans in kind of helped the Spanish or took sides in the Spanish Civil War to bomb out villages or towns. It's yeah, if whatever big power nowadays would choose such a step in a localized conflict to bring in nuclear arms, it's more or less a set of a chain reaction. At least that's my understanding. Of course, there's a very slight chance that the situation isn't like this, but I quite think that yeah, 1945 marks a very clear step in our history where yeah, things are not anymore like they were before. Also, especially for many years, I was wondering why certain states pursue certain policies nowadays, but seeing them again in the context after the Second World War, it makes way more sense why certain states arm so much to basically to be able to counter new localized how to say new localized not opposition but localized disruption in a way with which those superpowers couldn't deal with in 1938 or even 1931. So yeah, end of history. The other aspect is I just my dad, he also raised interest in this topic, and I just wanted to be able to talk with him about certain things. So I plunged in it yeah, head first. I hope he also gets into this topic at one point so that we actually can discuss certain things in more details when he put a couple of pages about something. But that's yeah, that's just this point. The other point is it's kind of more public point. Jordan Peterson is quite popular among or is quite popular among the more conservative sphere, and he promotes quite old books, for instance, from Shire, Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, from the 1960s, and I want to be able to understand what has been changed in the understanding and what has changed in the knowledge about this topic. Because back then, when Shire wrote his book, it was very fresh. He lived during this time, but there were definitely misconceptions. Now we have the hindsight, and I wanted to have the latest hindsight and not just something from right after the wars. I think nowadays it's quite common knowledge that many memoirs or accounts from people who were living at this time distorted facts, and it's good to know where those distortions come from, which purpose they served, and just put them into context and to be aware that to be aware kind of how history is used. Yeah, another big point is, and that's kind of more the forward-looking reason, is how to deal with kind of as a German or as human society, how to deal with kind of this big guilt which was created or dead towards the future generations. It's still for many countries a very touchy topic, and many countries are very easy in kind of choosing this topic to accuse Germany or ask for reparations. Just due to the sheer destruction which was caused. Of course, most places are rebuilt to a certain extent. Places are resettled. The one or two generation which suffered under the consequences, most are now in their, probably, I don't know, they either have died already or they're going to die in the next few decades, let's put it this way. And now we are mainly among people who only know about this topic from the hearsay, and including me. Born in the 80s, yeah, it was 5 decades after, that's correct, 5 decades, no, not really, 4 decades after everything collapsed, and a certain point zero was reached in Central Europe. So yeah, that's a big topic, and I'm quite fortunate that I met, or I'm meeting often, people from countries which were devastated, and to hear their reaction and also kind of receive their their renewed friendship or trust for what happened. Also, I think for which kind of this conflict in Europe might, it would be nice if this kind of balanced understanding, or let's say, it's really very bad to have such a big pause on the video, but I don't mind. It's those videos are probably mainly for me, and if they become popular, I can redo them. So enjoy those raw moments whilst those videos are still up. Definitely, due to I know lots of people who are kind of into Japan, and kind of Asian cultures, and there the whole dealing with this topic is quite different to how it was done in Europe. Kind of the ways how Europeans deal nowadays with this might also help people in Japan, China, many other countries in Asia, Korea, Philippines, to deal with this with their topic in a more open, kind of realistic, diffusing way than than nowadays, where it's not spoken about, or they're still very where there's still how to say, hatred is probably the wrong word, but where there is big ununity. No, it's also the wrong word. But yeah, that's just some thoughts about this. Why I make those videos, and yeah, I'm looking. I'm currently quite deep into. I only give myself 1.5 more months, and one of the next videos I'm going to talk about which books I listened already to, or kind of looked into, and so before I go into detailed books, the next video still will be more an overview of yeah, my encounter with this topic so far. Okay.